Stumbling along a lonely stretch of beach, a single pirate carried a chest heading for the tree line just beyond the sand. The sun beat down on him relentlessly. His clothes were tattered and scorched, save for his hat, and the wind carried with it the sound of a distant roar which could barely be heard. The pirate looked back over his shoulder, then quickened his pace. Once inside the cover of the woods, he slumped down, sitting with his back supported by a strong palm tree, and put down the chest, panting from exhaustion.
Curse that beast.
The pirate muttered as he fanned himself with his hat to cool down. Soon the exhaustion and heat of the late spring day took its toll on the pirate, and he fell asleep, still sitting against the tree. The little chest next to him began to wiggle, then to jump, as something inside moved. Pretty soon the chest fell over on its side, and the lid opened, allowing an egg to roll out of it and down a hill. Faster and faster it went as it came to a small ravine. It ran up a nearly buried log, which acted as a ramp, allowing the egg to jump a small stream and then landed on top of a large boulder with a loud crack. It stayed there, small end down against the boulder, the large end up in the air for a moment, before rolling down the side and coming to a stop just behind the rock. Another roar sounded, this time much closer. The pirate's eyes snapped open. He leaned over and scooped up his chest and took off running through the forest, leaving his hat behind. Hours later, the little egg started to move again. From the cracked portion of the egg, a little snout poked out, followed by the head of what looked like a lizard covered in goo. The infant continued to work its way out of its calcified prison, and once out, shook itself off and spread little wings from its back as it took its first few steps. This was a baby dragon. Its scales were a dull yellow with orange highlights. The scales were oddly shaped, so that as a whole, it looked almost like the little creature was a collection of tiny pebbles and sand rather than an actual animal. The little dragon waddled up the hill to the tree where the pirate had rested, and saw the pirate's hat. However, once it stopped to look over the hat, it blinked once and then fell over. It squirmed a bit, then stood back up, only to fall over again. No matter how hard it tried, the little dragon couldn't seem to stay upright unless its head was moving around. But figuring this out made the poor little dragon exhausted, so it flipped over the hat and used it as cover while it took a nap. Sometime later, when the little dragon woke up, it forgot that it was underneath the hat. So it stood up and tried to look around for a minute before realizing that the hat was obstructing its view and making it hard to waddle around. Once it realized this, it giggled from underneath the hat and then slipped out from under it. The little dragon pushed aside some leaves on a bush so it could explore, and that is when it saw the ocean for the first time. The waves crashed against the beach as the sun glistened off them, and tiny crabs rolled balls of sand looking for food. The little dragon could not resist and dashed out to play in the waves and chase the crabs. After some time, the little dragon noticed that far out in the bay, something was shining below the water that seemed different. So the little dragon waddled out into the water to see what it was. The little dragon discovered that it could float and swim in the water. It also figured out that it had the ability to breathe underwater as well. It took some time for the little dragon to figure out the best way to swim and dive before it could head out towards that glinting thing on the ocean floor. Tropical fish fluttered about, and the little dragon grew a bit nervous as they seemed to grow bigger and bigger the further out it swam. But quite soon the little dragon arrived at an amazing sight. A sunken ship was lying in the sand with its hatch wide open, and inside was a leather bag half filled with some gold coins that were glistening and shining in the light of the sun. The gold mesmerized the little dragon, and it decided that the best thing to do would be to take this treasure back to the hat that it had decided was now its home. Throughout the rest of the day, the little dragon took the coins one by one back to its hat to hide them. That evening it slept under the pirate hat atop a pile of coins. The next morning the little dragon woke to strange sounds.
Captain, it looks like someone has already passed this way.
A voice came from outside the hat, followed by the sound of several boots. The little dragon decided to see just what this was all about, so it waddled out from under the hat. Before the dragon was a group of burly pirates staring down at the infant.
Here now, what be these then?
Said the one in front. Seeing all these pirates, the dragon reacted immediately by turning around and slipping back under the hat. The pirates looked at each other and then back at the hat. The one in front got down on his hands and knees, and then with his thumb and forefinger grabbed the tip of the hat and lifted it up to peer inside. The little dragon looked out from atop its pile of gold coins, then reached up a claw and pulled the hat back down. The pirate looked back at his companions, who all chuckled.
Well, lads, it seems our little friend is a bit shy. Any ideas how we can coax it out?
The pirates discussed amongst themselves for a time before deciding to place a small biscuit on the ground in front of the hat. After a minute, the little dragon lifted up the hat slowly, staring out at the pirates, who all stared back at it. The tiny creature reached out slowly and grabbed the biscuit with one claw, holding up the hat with the other, then quickly pulled it in and dropped down the hat.
I know, it seems to like that. Now let's see if we can't get the little one on board while the rest of the crew finishes resupplying.
One instructed the others, all while sounds of munching came from within the hat. Soon the little dragon peeked out from under its hat to see a truly marvelous sight. A trail of biscuits that led out from its hat and around the tree next to it. The little dragon let out a squeak of joy and then rushed out to start collecting the flat, round food that had been laid before it. But there was a problem. There were so many biscuits that the little dragon couldn't carry them all. After a few failed attempts to carry the biscuits in its mouth, the little dragon decided to flip over its hat and fill it with its treasures. Using its tail to pull the hat along, it waddled around the tree, picking up biscuits and tossing them into the hat with the rest. The trail of biscuits led the little dragon out from the forest, down the beach, up a wooden ramp onto the pirate ship, and down into the hold of the ship next to a barrel. On the top of the barrel were more biscuits, and the little dragon climbed up and started tossing them down from the barrel into its hat. As it turned out, the barrel wasn't all biscuits, but only the top was. It wasn't even open. The little dragon didn't mind this, however, and climbed down to take its hat back to the beach. It hooked its tail into the inside of the hat and started waddling along. After a few moments, the little dragon realized that it wasn't going anywhere. It tried again. Still, the hat didn't move. It was now too heavy for the little dragon, being filled to overflowing with biscuits. The little dragon waddled around the hat, trying to decide what to do next, when the hatch to the deck above closed, and the ship rocked as it set sail. The little dragon squeaked in protest as the ground began to move underneath it, but soon enough it turned its attention back to the biscuits in its hat and started to eat again. Soon after that, the hatch opened for one of the pirates to come down into the hold, and then closed behind them. The pirate came over to the dragon and squatted down next to them.
Hey there, me little hardy. I be Captain Kidd, and who might you be, wee dragon?
He asked, pulling out a grape and offering it to the dragon. The little dragon took the grape and allowed Captain Kidd to pet him a bit. After a short time, the captain picked up the hat and the dragon and took them back to his personal quarters to help the dragon feel more at home. He poured out the biscuits onto a platter with some more grapes and some cheese. Then the little dragon yawned and curled up. It slept in a little hammock that the captain made for the dragon above the platter. Captain Kidd looked into the hat.
There be something embroidered on the inside. Jasper. Well then, if this be your hat, me little friend, then this must be your name.
He said to the sleeping dragon.